We already got some great, interesting questions today. So I think the main goal of today's session is to, it's mainly centered towards society, talk about how site acts as a win-win model, both for society and also for humanitarian activity committees, how we could enrich the, volunteer experience to the journey map through site. So with that said, the first 20 minutes, the idea here is, if there are participants from, the societies, give them an overview about site. And also strategically talk about, in 2019, what are the efforts taken by the site steering committee under my leadership, what particular direction we're heading towards, and what is our direction going beyond 2020. So what are the foundational efforts we have made so far? And I would like to give also to share the details about, the spearheading the direction for 2020 and beyond. So with that said, before I get onto the slides, if you have particular questions, feel free to, add those questions, either into the WebEx chat room or, we will go for a round table at the end of the session, so that every caller will have an opportunity to raise those questions and get some guidance from us directly. Okay. So with that said, we'll get started. So today's topic is mainly centered around IEEE site, a win-win model for society partnership. The core theme behind here is how do we build a locally focused community of engineers for global impact. Slide number 2. So, I know there could be potential, participants from societies. So just to give them a high level, view about what is site, what is our vision and mission. So, SITE stands for Special Interest Group on Humanitarian Technology. We are a subcommittee, we are a program under Humanitarian Activity Committee. So essentially, at a very high level, SITE is, it encompasses of 3 major, players. One is the IEEE volunteer, the community, and the local partners. So to give a summary about, SITE is essentially a network of IEEE volunteers around the globe who partner with underserved communities and local organizations to leverage technology for sustainable development. Okay, but this is our mission. But the holistic vision for the program is that throughout the globe, technology acts as a catalyst to address major challenges in the sustainable development space. In fact, technology provides the necessary tool for us to transform the challenges into opportunity. So with that in place, our vision is to serve the underserved communities around the globe, by leveraging technology and ensure the development challenges are addressed to sustainable solutions by, innovating solutions and technologies, which could serve the needs of this, people in those underserved communities. Okay, next slide. So let's take a look holistically how the site fits into IEEE strategic plan, right? So as we all know, IEEE is a global organization, right? I mean, we have close to 500,000 members, engineers, scientists throughout the globe. So the core mission of IEEE is to foster technological innovations and excellence for the benefit of humanity, right? So in order to implement this mission, we need to, have a goal, and then the goal, basically the board of directors, created a goal called as, between 2015 and 2020, we will lead humanitarian efforts around the world to use technology to solve the world's most challenging problems. And, for any goal, to be like, to put any goal into action, we need a, initiative or a program which can, basically, transform that goal into a deliverable vision. So Humanitarian Activity Board basically resulted in the program, which basically is responsible for spearheading this goal. The major mission of HAC is that it supports the IEEE board-endorsed vision of IEEE volunteers around the world, carrying out and supporting, impactful humanitarian activities on the local level. And then what is SITE here is, how does SITE fits in here is, SITE is basically the implementation mechanism for HAC to implement this goal at grassroots level. So in other words, HAC owns the mission, and SITE basically provides the platform for us to deliver this mission. Okay. Next slide, a quick introduction about our steering committee. You can see like key leaders across the globe are contributing to the site steering committee. We have active leaders in sustainable development space who have been contributing to our program. So I'm very, very excited and thrilled with all my team here. And as you can see, we have operations committee, education committee, projects committee, strategic committee, and operation and metrics committee, and of course the past chair and myself, Daniel and myself are also on the board. So this has been a very phenomenal year. I'll be talking about our progress, as a program in a second. But I'm very, very appreciative of the efforts put forth by the steering committee members, and of course our wonderful staff lead Juliana, for going above and beyond for our program in 2019. So slide number 5. I'm from society. I mean, what is interesting about site, right? I mean, this is a typical question. So as you can see, site basically we have about 8,000 members in 102 countries, and we basically have about 138 site groups in about 48 countries. And site, the major bread and butter of site is basically like providing opportunities for volunteers to drive sustainable development projects at grassroots level. So site project is like very key ingredient, or I would say the core component of our program. And roughly we have awarded about 42 proposals, close to about $300,000 in the last 3 to 4 years. So the next slide talks about, what value does site activity offers for IEEE member, right? A great question. So the one, unique aspect about site here is, it's a bottom-up approach, right? If you are a student or if you are a person from society, you always have an opportunity to, demonstrate your technical expertise in terms of publishing papers or going to conferences, I mean, that's basically the existing volunteer journey or member experience, right? But whereas site, what it does is, it provides a unique opportunity. It makes you actually to, understand the needs of your local community by partnering with them, understanding their needs and, helping you to come out with a project or a program where you could actually leverage technology to transform those needs into technological innovation. So in a way, basically, it not only enriches your experience by giving you a real-world opportunity to apply your skill set, but it also helps you to professionally develop, in several other fortes. For example, you may be a college student. I mean, you may be a student in a university in undergrad, where you won't have a lot of opportunity to, do a multi-stakeholder management. So site provides that opportunity for you to actually, meet with your local NGO, talk to your, local community, and then understand their needs, come with a project plan, and then prioritize their need and understand what needs to be delivered immediately, what can wait for another 6 months. So you get a hands-on experience in driving a real-world project from end to end, actually, from the concept of surveying, understanding the needs, creating the system design, and making sure whatever technology you are developing basically is appropriate and it serves the needs of the community. So that kind of experience typically you get only in the industry where, you onboard to industry and you spend a few years. But now it kind of help you to, gain those skill set much earlier, if you're a student, during your, undergrad program. So in a way, it helps you to prepare to be part of the industrial workforce as well, right? So, so professional development is a very, very key, benefit, from site. And also the connections and community, right? I mean, you get an, opportunity, to meet with multiple stakeholders here. If you're involved in a site project, you may be, thinking within IEEE circle, right? I mean, you may be working with other student chapters or site affinity groups, or even like young professionals, women engineering groups. But going over that, right, you still have many more opportunities, even going beyond IEEE to interface with the local community, and then the local NGOs, which I think a bigger opportunity, right? I mean, one of the core benefits of IEEE is to, support networking. where site provides not only networking within IEEE, but it also goes beyond that, right? Where not only you understand how to develop a technology, but now you also have an opportunity to interface and network with the local community, which is basically a customer of your solution. And then on the personal front, we ask a simple question, right? I mean, with a lot of many students we interface with, there's one of the classical response we get from them is, what is really interesting about site is the greater purpose, right? You get personally satisfied that your skills is being leveraged for for a very noble cause, where the technology is put into action, and it helps to actually serve the critical needs and provide an opportunity for these underserved communities to grow, actually. So in a way, we are acting as a catalyst here. And also, you are traveling the journey along with the community, which is also a very enriching experience. So apart from that, as I said, the core benefits include project funding. We'll talk about that in a second. And then we also provide training materials and awareness programs. For example, we want you to have the right level of skill set to drive and deliver a sustainable development project. So our educational committee has come out with a great amount of webinars, training materials, which will expose you to different terminologies and also make you to have the necessary skills to start thinking about how do I design a sustainable development project and how do I execute those projects. And when I execute it, what are the risks which can prevent me from delivering, and what are the measures I will be able to take so that I'm still able to deliver my project on time. So there's a lot many more interesting content which is available in our web portal. So feel free to take a look at that. And the most important aspect is the sustainable development community, right? And whatever we are doing here now, you get to have a direct impact on a sustainable, on transforming development challenges into sustainable growth for your local community. I think that's that give a very larger and more life-changing experience, by being part of site. So I think, in a nutshell, site not only provides you a technical skill and a professional development skill for your career, but it also provides you, as a person, an enriching experience about, how you are part of a journey where you are acting as a catalyst and, to bring in a positive impact on your local community. Next slide. So what benefits site membership offers, right? I mean, we spoke about a lot of, values, what we are delivering from site as a program. So the most fascinating thing is all this thing comes for free, actually, right? So all you need is you have to be an IEEE member. And for site, it's very interesting because you don't even have to be an IEEE member. You can still be a site member, right? You can be from a local NGO, or you can be from a local community where you're working with, site volunteers. But then you are bringing in the expertise of, understanding the needs of the local community. So in those cases, when we create a site, we basically felt like it has a lot of value for, having non-IEEE members also to become a site member. So site is, in a regard, it's open for everyone. There is no membership fee. And then, as I said, with respect to site as a structure, the local gross root components are basically, or the site groups, where we actually pay, we provide a seed funding of $250. The idea behind the local site groups is that, this is basically the IEEE unit, which will provide the foundational, capability for site to exist at grassroots level. So basically, you need 6 IEEE members to start a site group. And, the site groups are classified into 2 major categories. One is, university-related site group, which is mostly like student-driven. You need 6 student members to, come together, to form a core site committee and then constitute a site group. And then you can also have a professional site group, which can be attached to a local section or local societies, local region. So the process remains same here. You need 6 IEEE members, and you can also add non-IEEE members relevant to your project that you are working on. So once you submit a petition and the site steering operations committee blesses it, your site group is formulated, you are eligible to get a $250 seed fund, basically to either to conduct a survey or to, do an event or a workshop to promote sustainable development, topics related to sustainable development space. So that's what the seed funding is all about, and the seed funding is available only for the first 12 months, from when a site group is created. And then once you have a site group in place, you are eligible to apply for site projects funding, and typically the funding ranges from $1,000 to up to $19,999, close to $20,000. So the type of projects we support basically falls into three different categories. One is hey, I have a new existing technology. Can I deploy this technology to serve the needs of a particular community, right? So that's technology deployment projects. And then an example of that is there is a remote village and you wanted to actually provide some solar lights, and that could become an existing technology, but then you are leveraging the technology to address the community need. And the second category is basically humanitarian technology development, actually, right? Here you are talking about you work with the community, you are understanding the needs of the community, and then now you are creating actually a new technology or a technological solution that will serve the needs of that community. Essentially, it's a very localized solution here, right? So this is an example of that. Say you are working with a local, school where you have children with, differently able children. So maybe you are working on developing a new assistive technology, which is very unique when compared to the existing low-cost market solutions. But you feel like there is a need to develop the assistive technology, localized to that particular region because, there is specific needs that are not being addressed by the existing low-cost market solutions. Okay. And the third category is about policy-driven site projects. In the past few years, I don't think we had any, projects centered around policy, but then this year we are also working on some initiatives to establish some guidelines over that. And high-level insight on that is something like, you're delivering a technology, but then what is the, ethical implication of the technology on the community, right? That could be positive as well as negative implication. If so, how do we address and what are the policies that has to be in place? That's a classical example of a policy-driven project. So these three categories of projects, what we spoke about, basically once you have a site group, you are eligible to apply for it. But remember, it is a mandatory, requirement. Only we support site projects coming from site groups. So in a way, it is prerequisite that you must have a site group before you apply for this, funding actually. Okay. And then, as I said, educational contents, we conduct regional workshops, webinars, and this year we have launched this Ask-the-Chair session, which actually the goal here is to, interface directly with site volunteers throughout the globe, thereby, directly listening to you, addressing your concerns, understanding your needs, and deliver content and programs that will address the needs of the site volunteers at the grassroots level. So there's a lot more opportunity out there in terms of training and professional development. And then we also have a wonderful monthly newsletter and a social media platform where we promote the work done by our volunteers at grassroots level. We highlight the projects and we also share information specific to sustainable development space, which can help our volunteers and site groups to literally understand and know what the latest, highlights that's happening in the sector. And finally, as I said, we have a global network of volunteers or who are connected and are passionate about. In a way, it provides an opportunity for you to have inter-regional collaborations and networking opportunities, which goes beyond your local section and local region actually. Okay, so these are some of the core benefits that the site membership offers. And then, as I said, the next slide mainly talks about what is a site group. I think we touched upon it a little earlier. So all you need is 6 IEEE members, and we need the passion to involve in sustainable development space. when you create a site group, it's not a mandatory to have a site project, right? What we are expecting you is you basically identify a local community and tell us, hey, I'm going to work on a roadmap, and I have a roadmap, by which I'll be able to work on a project starting probably within the first 12 months. So that could be sufficient for you to get your site groups approved. Actually, you don't need a site project idea immediately to start a site group. But as I said, but we expect you to definitely initiate a project within the first year of your operations. And then, site, basically is, just like any IEEE unit, it basically formed within existing IEEE operating unit, which can be a section, region, society, or a classical operating unit. And in any of the stakeholders, from these units can start a site group, provided they meet the, criteria for opening our site group. Next slide. Okay, so the projects, I already spoke a little bit about the different categories of projects, so I'm going to skip that. But then I would like to give some guidelines about what are the winning projects or the winning proposal. Let's talk about that a little bit more, actually, right? The site today, actually, as I said earlier, provide funding up to $20,000, and we have 3 funding cycles. So for 2019, we already got our funding cycle completed. So typically, a site projects takes about 2 months to 12 months. So the implementation period should be less than a year. And the stakeholders involved in the projects include local community, IEEE volunteers, and local partners. Sometimes the local partners can be yet another site group, or can be a student branch, or it can be a non-profit local region which is working with the local community. And then the successful proposal from the site contains certain key components. One of them is basically site projects are always bottom up. In other words, you are creating a site project based on the needs of the community, not because you have a certain technical skill. For example, you may be a expert in some artificial intelligence or some field, electrical engineering. So we cannot come back and say, hey, I am working on this research problem, and this research problem is going to solve the world problem, and here is a community I can solve it, right? So that's top-down approach. Now, if it's a bottom-up approach, what you do is you go and talk to the community first. You do a survey, you understand their needs, and then you figure out, hey, okay, for solving this particular need, what is the technology do I need, right? So you perform a technology mapping based on the needs, of the community. So that's a bottom-up approach. So any successfully funded site projects are 100% or bottom-up approach, typically, right? And then we also want you to clearly, your proposal to demonstrate and explain what is your plan of record to transform these needs into technological solutions, right? And how do you plan to engage the local volunteer? And and what about your project plan, right? What is your goal? How do you measure the goal, right? Typically, we talk about goals and the needs to measure the goal, right? If a goal is not measurable, then basically it does not exist. So that's why your proposal should demonstrate metrics, or we call it as key performance indicators, called as KPIs, right? A classical example here is, say you are working on a project for a solar panel installation in a remote village, say, in a developing nation. The goal here is, how do you measure the success of this project, right? One way to say is, hey, I will get testimonial, I will get some cool pictures, but these are not quantifiable. That's why you need a KPI. So the KPI here is the number of people involved in that community, and because of the solar lamps installed, how many children are now able to go to the local school, whether there is an increased percentage of students going to the schools, and whether there is any increased percentage of local revenue within that community. For example, now you have more electricity available. Maybe there are some households who are doing their self-business, who can now operate for extended hours. So the revenues goes up, and the children now can comfortably attend more schools, basically, right? So you wanted to make sure those kind of KPIs are clearly called out. And the key other aspect is budget and timeline. So sometimes I have seen majority of the stakeholders make a mistake when submitting a site proposal is that they give a very unrealistic timeline, saying that it is going to take 3 years, it's going to take 2 years, right? What they're expecting is for the 12 months, right? give a granular information. The first 2 months I'm going to do a survey. The next 2 months I'm going to do a prototype, right? The design. The third month we'll be prototyping. We are going to do a testing, and then we are going to do a community involved user acceptance testing, and finally we are going to do a rollout plan and the final implementation, right? So what to make sure that you clearly call out the major milestones of your project, and then budget, right? A site will not fund any gifts or salaries, which is a key distinction. We fund majorly for the program to be implemented in terms of what are the essential engineering components that you need to implement the program, and we do cover a small reasonable amount of travel, and then some local expenses. Your proposal cannot be like 75% of travel expense. Someone from US parachuting to for example to a different country, and then saying that, hey, this is going to help the local folks to get benefited. It doesn't work that way. So the entire core vision of site is local capacity building. So when you put your budget, make sure you avoid salaries, gifts, and also like for any expense line item, make sure you can provide a comparable online reference. Sometimes you are getting an electronic component, you can provide a Google search or an Amazon link, whatever it is, right? Which will help the committee to clearly understand that you are presenting a comparable numbers there, right? And then the last item is sustainability plan, right? I mean, okay, once you implement this project, what happens to the project? Is it a one-off thing, or the project is going to die after the post-implementation, right? So you need to have, either a community buy-in to ensure the community will try to keep the project, going, or you should have a local partner like an NGO willing to take over the project and ensure it's going to have a lasting impact on the local community, right? So a successful site projects basically will contain all these key elements. So when you write your proposal, ensure that your proposal addresses all these key elements. Next slide. So this is again, in the site website, we provide a toolkit. And if you look here, this is kind of a Boolean graph which helps you to understand, hey, once you have a site, project plan in place, it will help you to understand whether your particular proposal falls within the scope of site or not, right? So I will encourage the participants to look through this, binary graph at your leisure. But certainly we have a bunch of tools which will help you actually, when you decide to create your first proposal, leverage those tools actually. Okay. Next slide. Again, this is a classical example of one of the projects funded. This project was funded in Chile. So the idea here is like, install a solar-powered lighting for underserved community. So as you can see, the site volunteers, they work with the local community. They install the solar lamp, and then you can see the renewable lighting solution. Right now, it's providing a good source of, essential need. I mean, it provides a good source of renewable energy to meet the needs of the local community. This project is still on the way, but once this is completed, this provides a very safe, neighborhood. Also, it provides a good, garden and play space for their children as well. So, this is a classical example of a site project where, the engineers involved apply the technical skill, but at the end of the day, as you can see here, the community is benefited by leveraging the technology to meet their, community needs. With that said, the next slide quickly talk about, a high-level overview of a few projects that are approved this year. You can understand the flavor of various projects here. One is we are talking about installation of solar technology in Uganda, and then the next one, as you can see, basically like leveraging technology to assist farmers in southern India. And then you can also, see like few more projects like a Nabon network where the goal is to connect various, educational institutions in Ecuador by providing an internet fabric. and also, smart switching toilet for a flood affected region. It's a very interesting project again in India where we have funded this year. And then in Jordan, get fitness and gain the power. Basically, the idea is to help a refugee camp, inmates in a refugee camp by giving them an opportunity to be part of sustainable development programs. So these are some of the projects which we have funded this year. We are very excited. As you can see, it is across different regions, and again, these are completely driven by the needs of the community and are completely driven by the site volunteers. Okay, now I hope this gave a very in-depth insight into what is the site program and what are the benefits. Now let's talk about the strategic goals and what is how we are connected to the societies, right? So as you can see here, 2019 strategic goal, under my leadership, my focus was one of the major focus was me to establish and strengthen the partnership with IEEE societies. So I mean, we have a bunch of other goals here, which I'm not going to get into details. But I think the key highlight here is, so why do site needs to partner with society, or the other way around? Why society needs to partner with site, right? Plenty of opportunities, right? I mean, as you can see, the biggest win for both the sides is that you are providing an enriching experience for your volunteer base or your membership base, right? Engaging in real world projects, applying your skills. We touched upon it, right? And in fact, we also conducted an interesting study earlier this year where the student members, when they involved in site activity, there is a high probability they will continue the journey map with IEEE, right? So in a way, site actually provides a member retention mechanism and also a member attraction mechanism to onboard new members for the society, right? And as I said, sites can be another parallel channel for the societies to get this benefit from, right? So I would say that's a very key win, not only for site but also for society. But from site standpoint, as I said, site is common across all the societies. So we are not confined to a particular technology or a society. That means it's more flexible. That means the society members will have a lot more opportunity to involve in a site project and to network with other members from other societies, both at the local level and transnational level. So site promotes transnational networking more effectively as a program. So that's one more key takeaway. And then, as I said, site also provides a valuable training in terms of sustainable development, how to design and deliver sustainable development projects, which will help students and early career members to gain valuable skill set and make them ready for the industrial workforce. So those are some major highlights why it's very important to partner with sites. So if you go back to the next slide. So we made the stellar progress this year. In fact, we have a committee headed by Dr. Ajay Kadur. This year, we appointed a committee for strategic partnership. This is the first time in the history of site that we are actively in conversation and we are spearheading collaboration with about 12 different programs within IEEE. For example, IEEE MTTS, society, PES, PELS, APS, IAS, EDS, OAS are some of the societies which are actively speaking with us. We also are actively in conversation with major programs like ETA Kapanu, HKN, EPICS in IEEE is another program, in the sustainable development space, student activity, YP, and young professionals, right? So one key, call out here is all the societies and programs are very, very excited because they see common interest with site. And they also strongly feel that, since site comes as a free, free membership, it's going to add a lot of value and benefit for the members. So next slide. So specifically, if you look through here, there are three major benefits that results out of the partnership. There are many, but we are just calling out the three major ones in this slide. One is we enrich the volunteer experience, right? Now think about from the society standpoint, the students are going to get graduated. You want the students to continue their journey map, right? So that, the IEEE journey will help them to be successful in their career. So sites actually enable the creation of a multi-stage community of locally focused engineers to accomplish the global impact. In other words, it provides the pipeline, for to continue the journey of student members, and also making sure that we provide continuous opportunity for them to contribute towards the larger vision of IEEE, which is advancing technology, to serve the needs of humanity. And then the second one, as I called it earlier, the skill development, right? You will be engaging in a research project, applying your engineering skills. You are gaining new skills like multi-stakeholder engagement, working with your local communities, NGOs. I think this kind of skills and experience, it's a great add-on for you when you're looking for internship opportunities or when you're looking for join the workforce in the industry. And the third thing, as I said, the member retention and recruitment. As I said, our initial, investigation is demonstrating values that, student members are more likely to, continue their journey map if they are involved in a side project. So that, I believe, is a very, very critical component which will, help societies and other sister programs within IEEE. Okay, now we spoke about what we are doing. Just a high-level thing. In 2019, we are conducting pilot projects with a lot of mini societies. It's underway already. So I think we'll have more details probably in the next month or two as we actively make progress in those projects. But as I said, that this is the first time that site leadership has taken this kind of collaboration to the next level, and we are very, very thrilled and excited about it. Now, going beyond 2019, right? Our goal for Site 2, we are laying the foundational work for a program called Site 2.0. So the idea here is, today Site solicit a proposal from all the site group. It's very generic in nature, right? We also wanted to open up a new additional avenue for societies. So our society is basically, the benefit of society is that society leads the latest innovation in a given sector, technological sector, right? So we wanted to take the best of the technology, at the same time ensure those technologies are available to serve the needs of challenging problems in the sustainable development space. So considering that aspect, we are creating a new line of program for 2020 called a Site 2.0. So the idea here is we will partner with every society and identify a dedicated focus area. For example, robotic society, right? The focus area is robots, right? So we will ask the society to come back to us with top focus area, technology focus area, which can serve the needs of problems in sustainable development challenges, right? There has to be a mapping, technology mapping with the sustainable development challenges, right? We will let the society to identify those top tiers of technology, and then we are going to call a particular targeted project calls basically for calling technology developments which can address critical problems in the sustainable development space, right? So this will work as a better model, because not only you are asking the societies to get back to us with the best technology, but you're also leveraging site as a medium to go and deliver those technology to the grassroots underserved people at the grassroots level, right? So currently, the idea is we will be creating working groups with the societies to leverage the technical expertise to help and review those proposals along with our projects committee. So whatever piloting projects what we are doing right now, basically is to trial this pilot program and understand the various process, and then make sure we can institutionalize those process and we can roll out Site 2.0 in 2020. So the next slide. Okay, sharing this topic about the site and how we could partner with the society. One more call out here is our operations committee is also working on creating a governance document which will talk about how does the integration of site, with society will look like. For example, you have different societies, we have different structures. So are we going to partner with chapters, or the chapter needs to create a site group, or the chapters can actually add site as a, another channel. So these are the kind of, the implementation mechanisms which have been actively being flushed out with, respect to society leadership. So hopefully by end of the piloting is done, next year when we launch the 2.0, there will be a clear journey map of integrating site with all the societies actually. Okay. Now with that in place, since you all have attended the sessions today, what you can do, what are the next steps for you here is, if you are not a site member, please register yourself. If you are from a technical societies, or a local technical chapter, see if you already have a local site group and see if you can talk to them and see if you can participate in the ongoing projects, right? And and if you don't, if you have a site group and you're an expert in a particular technology, you can check with the local site group to see if you can be a mentor or you can contribute to the local projects. And then if you have a passionate team of 6 volunteers, you can start a site group. You can apply for site project funding. And then, once you are successful, you can write your projects report to us. We'll be more than happy to, promote it in our newsletter and social media. And, the another way is, if you are sending introduction or welcome emails to, your new society members, you can include, a small abstract about site and talk to them about, the benefits of site and how this is going to be a win-win for them. And finally, you can also leverage the workshops and webinars offered by our steering committee. So with that said, before I go for the closing remarks, I just want to give a high-level update about where the site stand in 2019. So site is one of the fastest growing programs within IEEE in 2019. In fact, we added 8,000 members, which is a record high since site was created. We added about 4,000 new members this year, the first 6 months of our operation. And then we are also, I believe we got close to over 60 plus proposals, which is also like we are already on the track to set a new benchmark in terms of the number of site proposals that are approved and are most likely to be approved or received this year. And one more call out here is, with our initial partnership with MTTS and IAS, we are looking forward to get at least 40 new site groups with our society partners, which is record high since the site inception. So my journey with site started as a volunteer at a grassroots level, and then I served as the project chair for a couple of years. And now, I'm leading the site steering committee. So I believe like this experience had a very, very positive impact on me in a site as a program. When I started this year, we were very particular that we want to deliver more value to our society members and to our site members. So we were very thrilled, with the kind of, progress and performance what we have made this year. And again, this journey is, without you all, the site volunteers and the partners, I believe the journey is not complete. So I'd like to thank every site volunteers who have been actively promoting and driving site at the grassroots level. Again, this success is basically like it's part of, the contribution what you all have made. So we have delivered this performance collectively as a team, and I'm really appreciative and thankful to each one of you for your time and commitment to this program. So with that said, we have some reference material on the, on the slide, how to become a site member, how do you apply for projects. I will ask Juliana to send the slides after the call. But with that said, what I will do right now is there are some interesting questions which we already got from our email to the registration. So I'm going to address those questions first, and then I will open the floor for discussions or any other additional questions in the floor. I think the first question is from UFGF site group in Brazil. So the question basically, I think, is from Carlos. What is the site's biggest challenge today? It's a fantastic question. I think let me put the question a different way, actually, right? What is site's biggest opportunity today, right? The goal here is we are transforming the challenge into opportunity, right? But I believe with the stellar performance this year, site already has transformed majority of the challenges, like in terms of membership growth, retention, and introduce programs to serve the needs of site volunteers at grassroots level. So we already have addressed and set a new benchmark. So more response at this point is, what are the bigger opportunities, right? Our bigger opportunities at this point are, ensure we have a great integration with the society, and ensure we provide a lot many more opportunities for, conducting very meaningful program at grassroots level, and collectively take all the feedbacks, from the grassroots, grassroots members, and ensure we can transform those feedbacks into actionable program strategies, which were done actively this year through the through this program of the chair session. I think the one area I would say the site needs to as we scale out more and more, I feel like we need to have a mechanism to generate more funds to support the needs of our site group. So our team, our steering committee team is already proactively looking into that, in a way to raise additional source of funding where we'll be able to, fund more projects globally. And strategically, by partnering with society as well, we believe that, that is also a strategic decision which will help us to, support more projects at the same time, will help us to better leverage the resources across society and site. So I think we are very excited with the kind of growth we are going right now. One challenge I would call out here is, like any other IEEE, operational unit, sites present in Northern America is probably relatively small when compared to other regions, because 80 to 90% of sites growth is between region 7 to region 10. So strategically, to address this gap, we are in partnership with SKN and programs like EPICS, which have a very fabulous, presence in US and in North America. So we already identified this gap, and we already are putting, we are rolling out programs and plan, action items in place to ensure those challenges can be resolved by end of this year. So hope that answers your question. And the second question is basically from Jay Krishna from Karnataka. Can we conduct sessions in student chapters on design thinking and understand various community problems in various stages, then pick the top 3 and apply design thinking principles for impact solutions, prototyping and testing? So I think the answer to that is absolutely why not, right? I mean, you can conduct a workshop on sustainable development space. You can talk about what is the importance of engaging in sustainable development space, and how does your student branch can involve in site activities. Absolutely. But if you need any guidance on content or anything else, maybe you can write to us directly at site@IEEE.org. So the third question is from Anurag Vijay from Roorkee. Can an NGO start a site chapter? So the answer to that is right now it's no. Site can be created either by a student chapter or by an IEEE operational unit. An NGO which is outside of IEEE's scope, I don't think that's possible at this point, because sites basically are fundamentally an IEEE OU, and it has to be started and operated by an OU. Okay, and there is a fourth question from Tushara from Sri Lanka. How sites can work together with sites student branches, right? This is a very interesting question, right? So as I said, student branches can start your own site group. As I said, you have 2 flavors of site group, and student branch-based site groups are more active. So you can start a site branch in your local branch, site group in your local branch, or you can also partner with your local site group and see whether your students can participate in those site activity, like a local site project. The other thing is you can also take your students, or invite the local site, leadership to provide a workshop to your student branch, talking about how you could involve in site projects or sustainable development space. I think there's a lot more opportunities here, for the student branch to benefit from site, because as I said, it's free, and it's really like more impactful on the students and then for early career professionals actually. Okay. The other 2 entries, I believe there is no question there, but it's only like note saying that from Argentina section, they wanted to add some 3 questions. So I don't see any questions here. So those are the 4 questions that were submitted, to us via the registration process. Juliana, are there any other particular questions on the call?
Yes. So we had one from Juan Montero, and unfortunately he had to drop off of the call, but I can send your response to him later. And I think this is a really good question that perhaps others have had as well. He says, what do you mean by a community? People that share something or people that physically live close together? For example, is the deafblind community valid?
Okay, thank you. So thanks a lot. This is a great question. I think your question itself contains the answer here, right? There are 2 flavors you can call about. So community here, as you said, the project can address, so let's take an example here, right? So we are talking about, the first one can be people having certain common attributes that can constitute a community. For example, differently abled children or people with, are differently abled, right? There, you can talk about specifically like, okay, I'm developing an assistive technology which can serve the needs of differently abled population in general, right? But then when it comes to site, its specificity, you have to make sure it's you are identify your local neighborhood, right? That here you are talking about people living together in the same neighborhood or in the region, which can constitute a community, right? So the 2 tiers here are, one is people can be grouped together as belonging to a community based on certain aspects, which in this case, the example I quoted was, if they have some kind of, disability. But then the other thing is, from there, the goal here is to deliver a site project. You have to make sure there is a local neighborhood, or even it can be a local institution which serves the needs of, those group of, people that your technology is going to be opt for them, right? So the other classical example here is you are developing, this assistive technology, but then that there is a village, there is a local school which serves the needs of, children with disability, which can benefit from the solution what you are developing. So this would be a classic example where your immediate school where the children are attending becomes your community. But then your larger community here is, the disabled children in that specific country or the state or the region, who can get benefited by scaling up your project. So there's 2 tiers of community involved here.
Okay, so we have another, this one is a little bit more like a comment, but maybe you'd like to talk about this too. Based on the type of projects you mentioned, the team should be an interdisciplinary team with at least one member who is good as a project manager to address risk management, project timeline, and budget.
Not necessary, because I don't know whether we had a chance to look into our site toolkit. It's good to have people with experience in the project framework, but then typically a site as a team is very diverse, right? I mean, we come from different chapters, different IEEE societies. Our members come from different societies, so I think it's good to have a person with a strong project management skill, but it's not a very mandated requirement here. If you look through the site toolkit, right, we provide you a set of tools. How do you do it, right? We are talking about here in terms of writing a budget, managing the budget and the schedule. Actually, these are easily forecastable because if you're a technologist, you can say how long it's going to take your solution development, right? So it does not require a complete set of an expertise in project management. Even as a student, you are doing a project management on your day-to-day basis, right? Your professors will ask you to write a report, or you are working on a project for your undergraduation program, and you have certain milestones. You are already doing that, at on a day-to-day basis. What you are doing here is you are applying the same skill, and you're trying to make sure that those skills are leverageable for a real-world project. Right. So while it is a good to have, future to have somebody exclusively trained and expert in project management, I don't think that's a mandated requirement because, site, the essential point of site is if we can follow through our toolkit carefully, you basically are given a step-by-step instruction on how to create your proposal on what we are really looking for. So with that kind of run book, I think it's very easy for anyone to actually follow through the instructions and then ensure they'll be able to provide a very robust project plan in place.
Okay, we've got another question here that I think I've heard this one before, so I think this will be a good one to respond to. Will environmental issues come under the purview of site projects? For example, clean air, clean water with
Fantastic.
technology. They gave the example, so afforestation on mangrove forest, would that qualify?
Fantastic question. In fact, this is a great question. I think whatever you have called out right now, these are very interesting topics. The only thing is what I would call out here is there's two differences here, right? For example, let's take clean water as an example here, right? So if you come and say, hey, I'm going to do a research on clean water technology and you want to cite funding for that, that's not going to work out, right? Even though this is a very critical, important focus area. What rather will be a good convincing case for you is we have identified the local community, say in some X village, and then you understand that, one of the critical needs of that, the inhabitants in that village is clean water. So you wanted to invest your, time and resources to create that kind of, program, then it perfectly comes under the purview of site actually, right? In fact, this year, site is, piloting a global competition program. And one of the areas we're exploring is basically on clean water. So I think, in 2020, I think the topics or themes related to climatic change, forestation. I think we may even we'll have probably a specific call as part of our society centric focus area call, but it should not prevent anyone from applying for site funding opportunities. The only call out here is it has to be a bottom up project. It cannot be a top down project. It has to be a community element. There has to be a community element. And based on that, your needs should arise, your technology needs should arise based on that.
Okay, and I see some other comments, but not any other questions either in the chat box or in the Q&A. So if anyone else would like to take advantage of this time to ask Sampath a question.
Hello, Juliana. Hello, Sampath. How are you?
Good, Dr. Celia. Good to hear from you. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Okay. So actually, it was a very enlightening session for all of us, but it will be very important for many of the students who are already working in the Technical Society Student Branch chapters. There are 46 technical societies and councils in IEEE, and currently, what are the focus technical societies for IEEE site, so that we can encourage our members to be partner with the local technical society student branch chapters.
Okay, great question.
Yes, which is very important, because we cannot move with 46 technical councils and chapters. We should move with the societies. Okay,
fantastic question.
With whom we are already partnered with.
Thank you, Dr. Celia, for raising the question. Fantastic question. Julia, do you mind bringing up our slide and bring especially the slide where we talk about the 12 partnerships, what we are pursuing in 2019. Okay, so while Juliana tries to present that at a high level, the first goal here is we have to deliver incrementally, right? Not a big bang. So what we have done in 2019 is we have partnered with IEEE. We are in active conversation, and some of the societies have agreed to roll out a pilot program with us. So at least there are 12 different IEEE programs and societies internally they are partnered with. To start with, our engagement currently is with IEEE MPTS, IEEE IAS, IEEE PES. We are having the initial conversation, and the IEEE HKN, IEEE EPICS, IEEE RAS, IEEE IAS and EDS, and IEEE PLS. So these are some of the key critical, partners who have been working with us. In fact, we're also seeing the possibility of conducting a pilot this year. So the idea for 2020 here is this 12 partners, what we are working right now, will help us to define the foundational structure, both in terms of integration and the process for 2020. With that said, the goal in 2020 will be we will launch with the, in Q1, this 12 different societies, but then we'll incrementally will expand to other societies in Q2, Q3, and Q4 in 2020. So there will be a roadmap that will be published by December, where we'll say, hey, this is a plan of record, what we plan to expand and how we plan to expand in 2020 and what we plan to deliver.
Thank you, Shampan. Actually, I saw this slide, and the participants who are attending this session also saw this slide. But it is important that you have clearly told our current partnership, so that if the student-run chapters, society chapters, and our side groups makes collaboration, then we can also tell the global society's leadership that we are doing partnership from the root level. So it is obvious that our partnership from the global level will be more stronger because our base will be strong.
Right. And also the way we are doing the Dr. Celia right now, it's a collaborative partnership with the relevant society, where we are cherry picking certain chapters to partner with our site groups and deliver a piloting project, which will help us not only to understand what is needed for those integration, but also to come back with a robust and scalable process to support our integration in a formal way.
Yes. Thank you. It will be very helpful if we can see if you can do some meaningful projects in collaboration with the societies. It will make the bonding more stronger. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Celia. So again, thank you everyone for your time and commitment towards site. With that said, we'll close out the session today. And with that said, look forward to continue this amazing journey for site along with you all. Thank you, everyone.